go ahead, take a deep breath, pull it in, hold, and let it out. You're here today to develop and strengthen your mindset because you know that weekly training sessions in mindfulness is the missing link the world is searching for when it comes to business success. So set aside the external logistical side of business growth and come with me now to a world of focus, purpose, calm, confidence, and personal power using NLP and CBT tools and techniques. I am your host, Leah Marie, and you're listening to Flip the Switch. In today's podcast, we are going to start off with a little bit of background and some context behind Habit Nest and who Mikey Ahdoot is. So we're going to start off with my story about where Habit Nest came from and its journals and how I ended up just falling in love with these journals and everything about the mission and what these guys are doing. Then we're going to talk a little bit with Mikey about his journey, which is totally incredible. You guys can't wait to hear that and share that with you guys. And really, I mean, where this guy has come from and all the places, everything that they have accomplished, massive, you guys. Wait till you hear the introduction. Okay, now after we get into these bits and pieces of my journey and Mikey's journey and kind of our stories, then we're going to get into the juicy part where we get around playing with some of the questions about how he was able to test what worked and what didn't and keep what did and junk what didn't. So that's going to be interesting. He's also going to share one of the biggest learning experiences of the process with us, as well as how he was able to create the ability to adapt and shift to start and stop his habits as needed. Now, there's also going to be a point where there's a really funny story that has us talking about the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Of course, you guys know this. You're going to want to stay till the very end because I have a special announcement at the end for you guys that you will not want to miss. Let's get started. Okay, you guys, we are live. We are recording, and I'm so excited about my studio guest today. We are going to be listening to and talking to Mikey Ahdoot. Did I pronounce your last name properly?
You got the Middle Eastern last name down.
Awesome. Okay, so I was just telling Mikey, he has no idea what his introduction is going to be. Because as you guys know, I like to go behind the scenes and find a friend or family member, best friend, whoever it is, to write the intro so that it's a surprise to the guest as well. So Lindsay McDermott, tell us a little bit for a second. Who's Lindsay for you?
So Lindsay is our Chief Happiness Officer, and she basically deals with all interactions with our customers.
Yeah. I love her title, Happiness Officer. Okay, so Lindsay knows you pretty good,
Yes.
working at Habit Nest. So this is what Lindsay's introduction is all about. She goes, ladies and gents, my next guest is Mikey Ahdoot, co-owner of Habit Nest, a formerly 200 plus pound video game junkie who is now a lifter of weights, creator of journals, and completely passionate about helping others. When he isn't pouring his heart out into his company and their rad habit journals, you can find him drinking water like constantly, which is hilarious because we've already seen that. Starring in hilarious YouTube shorts and occasionally dropping his toothbrush in the toilet. I want to hear about that. So his company, Habit Nest, was recently awarded top small business under 30 by Amazon.com. He and Habit Nest have also been featured on Good Morning America, in Wall Street Journal, Women's Health and Glamour magazine, and most importantly, in the hearts and homes of over 250,000 folks who use Habit Nest journals.
Damn, good job, Linz.
Nice job, Lindsay, right?
Yeah.
And that, you guys, is why Lindsay works at a Habit Nest. I love her sense of humor. She's so cute.
She's awesome.
Okay, so you guys, I have to tell you, here's my story first as to how I found about out about Habit Nest. So I have been kind of a gym junkie for quite a few years. You know, get up at 5, 6 a.m. type thing and hit the gym every morning, 5 to 6 days a week. So that's been my routine. Right before Christmas, so now it's April. So right before Christmas, my husband was sick and tired of me complaining about the fact that literally I had lost my desire to be at the gym. I kept showing up because I had created the habit of showing up, and I knew that I needed to keep that habit for the goals and the health that I wanted for later in life, right? But what happened was, is I didn't really have, other than that, like I was so sick and tired of my routine, and I just had completely lost my excitement for being there. And so my workouts were pretty pathetic, to be honest. They really dropped off and were pretty lame. And so my husband for Christmas bought me the Booty Shaping and Resistance Training Journal from Habit Nest, which you guys can see here in the video. So awesome. So I have already completed it. I went through it once. I'm now on the second round. Yeah. And I absolutely love it. Like, it pulled me out of that funk the first video, like the first time. Okay. So, I mean, if you guys, it's so awesome. There's so much good stuff inside of this. And you can track everything, and it's got pictures and stuff like that. And then what happened is I had friends and other people that kind of showed up at the gym at the same time as me. And they were like, wait, what are you doing over there? Like, after a few days, right? People started just being like, what workout is she doing? That looks cool. That looks exciting. So I had 2 different people come up to me and be like, what are you doing? I want to do that. And both of them bought journals, and one of them bought one for their husband as well. Wow. And then my husband, after seeing my excitement with it, went out and bought his as well. So yeah, we are absolutely loving the journals. So that's my success story with the journals. And after having this experience, I was like, I have to get a hold of these guys, and I have to spread the word of how amazing these journals are, because it relit and reignited my excitement in exercise and accomplishing goals and everything of that.
Dude, you're awesome for like actually taking so much action and like implementing this. Like, you know, there's obviously a million tools out there, but just the fact that you stayed so consistent with like finding what worked for you and going all in, you're badass. I love it.
Thank you. And you know, it was interesting is after a few days, I recognized, I saw at the top, and I was like, oh, hey, there's a link here for a video. So then I went in and I watched Jennifer Cohen do, and I was like, oh my gosh, this chick is a machine. Like, it was so fun, because at first I was like, okay, there's no way I can keep up with her. But the cool thing is that the way that the journals are set up, that you guys have created them in, is a way that it's so personalized, right? Like, the timer's going, and you can try and keep up with her, or you can just look at her and be like, okay, that's the technique, right? Yeah. Like, this is where I need to set my technique. And so I absolutely love that. And I have to tell you, a huge win. So growing up as a kid, I used to run cross country. Okay. Elementary, junior high, high school. But it was like torture for me, because I would get stomach cramps all the time. So I only did it because I loved the races, but I hated every practice. And then I stopped running as soon as there was no more races. And so I haven't ran for like, I don't know, 16 years, 17 years. No, it's my 20-year school reunion this summer. So like almost 20 years. And so I would go to the gym and do all the weight stuff, but my cardio sucked. Yeah. Like, so bad. And I didn't really realize how bad it was until I went hiking with a bunch of my girlfriends. And there was like maybe 6 of us. And one of them, and I thought, oh gosh, like, I work out 6 days a week. Like, I got this. And it's not even a hard hike, right? Yeah. Well, holy freak, we're going, and I'm stopping, like dying. And all these other girls are just like passing me. And I was just like, what? You don't even work out. But the difference is that they did work out. It was just a different way. Like, they hiked more than I did. And so they had the cardio, and I didn't have the cardio. So my muscle fatigue, I didn't have any muscle fatigue, but my cardio was bad. So this morning, after doing the journal, so I started the journal in January, and it is set up as let's see when I finished it. I think I'm going to check my dates here. See when I finished it. I finished it. Oh, I didn't. I stopped writing the date. But anyways, I followed it right through. Okay.
Yeah.
So I did the entire thing. There's 50 workouts. And I was doing them 5 days a week. So I completed that. And this morning I went for a 5.6K run.
Wow.
And I was like, I could have kept going. Like, that's where my cardio is now, you guys.
Wow.
Like, awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those are hard. I mean, like, that book it's intense. You know, you're doing, like, you're jumping, you're moving, you're kicking. It takes everything.
Yeah. And so that's what I love about it, is that you guys incorporated like all of the movements that make the reason why we work out. Right. So like, I work out not to like go in a competition and be like, hey, this is how I look. I work out so that I can go and enjoy when I'm hiking with my friends, or when I'm paddleboarding on the beach, or when I'm chasing my kids, or whatever, like for the lifestyle. And the problem is that the way I was working out wasn't even supporting the lifestyle, because I didn't have enough cardio. And I hated the treadmill, right?
Yeah.
But your workouts inside here made each of the activities cardio like was a part of it, right? Because there was so much of that movement in the resistance training and stuff like that, that it upped my cardio level without me even thinking about doing cardio.
It's awesome.
So yeah, it was so fun. So anyway, so that's my story, you guys. Let's hear Mikey, tell us about your story. So you were like 200 plus pounds, and you were like video game junkie.
Yes. Okay. So growing up, I was like, I think the biggest kid in my whole school, which led to me being really shy, really quiet. I didn't really have a lot of close friends or anything until like starting around high school. But thank God, like I have some of the best family in the world, and they raised me with so much love that I felt like emotionally invincible. And I still do to this day. And all of that led me to be able to like really dream of what my potential in this world can be. And like, ever since I was a kid, I just knew deep down, like, I'm going to be, I hope I'll get there one day, but like, I have the confidence to dream. Like, I want to be one of the biggest voices on the planet and make one of the biggest impacts in the world. Right. So you have that ambition, but then I'm like, okay, I love calling myself out on BS, on excuses, because I love problem solving and figuring out what's impeding my progress of getting where I want to go. And I'm really good at doing that objectively. So I like graduate college and I come home and I'm playing like games for like 5 days on end. I'm sleeping at like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. and I'm not being productive at all. And I'm like, okay, there's definitely a missing link here. And I just knew I had to undergo so many changes within myself, right? So I set out to say, okay, I need to rewire like 10 major areas of my life, from starting to read books. I never read anything. I would SparkNote everything in school, to like working out more consistently, to eating well. I was getting overweight then too, to limiting video game time and like figuring out how to build that discipline, which I'm working on today. But just undergoing that entire process, I was really sparked to start making changes. So I started reading books I read so many books on like willpower, discipline, all these different things. I went in my room and I drew an 8-foot wide, basically monthly calendar that became a habit tracker. And I was tracking up to like 18 different habits at a time, at a day. Everything from like workouts, reading, to cool experimental stuff. Like, what if I started my day by celebrating and dancing for like 10 seconds with like all my energy? Or like, what if I brainstormed 10 ideas a day that would improve the world, which actually led to Habit Nest being created. Like, just random things that I just experimented with. You know, it was a time right after college. I wasn't really working much. I was staying with my parents. So I had the opportunity to like experiment and taste these things. Going through that entire process for a couple of years, it really pissed me off how difficult that whole experience was of building the discipline to do this. I think at my core, I'm probably the laziest person you have ever met, but I want to be so effectively lazy. Like I want to do the least amount of work that will lead to the most amount of happiness. And to this day, it's still like that, but like I will work 12 to 18 hours a day if I like easily, because it's a joy for me to do that. And it's kind of this balance I need to feel out. But really that process was so hard for me to like actually build that discipline within myself. And I just knew after reading all those books, after consuming so much information, that there's a lot of better ways out there to learn and to implement that learning to make changes. That really sparked me to create Habit Nest, and thank God I found like my best friends were able to do it alongside with me. And I think we're building something really incredible.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. I love this so much. I am really curious.
Yeah.
What was the thoughts? Like, what was the point where you stop and you're like, is this really what I want my life to look like for the rest of my life? Like you're awake, you're waking, you're like, you're going to sleep at 3 a.m. You have all of these poor habits. So what was it that made you stop and actually say something needs to change? And
Yeah.
so you were like 200 plus pounds. And then, so first tell me, what was it that was the tipping point there that made you stop?
Okay.
And then start to like change so much and put all of these things in and go like, what if I did all of these things? And so I want to know kind of like, yeah, what ignited that? And then secondly, what does your body look like now in comparison? Because we're going to have like in video, people can see, right? But this is also going to be an audio podcast. So maybe give people a little bit of an idea, like
Yes.
weight wise and stuff like that, what the transformation has been there.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. So what sparked me to like really, really like draw out that habit calendar, like take it to another level, is my best friend and I, one of them, I went to his house and he was going through like a 6-year relationship ending, and he was really struggling. I graduated school. I was really struggling then too. We were both unhappy and we were so pissed off, like feeling that way, that we just sat down, and that like we both together started talking of like, okay, like this is not sustainable. What would our dream lives look like? And then we mapped it out in terms of like family, health, social interactions. We're like in our young 20s, you know, like going out, just in every department, like 6 or 7 departments. And then we wrote out those bigger picture goals. And then we're like, okay, but like all BS aside, how do you implement that on a daily to weekly basis? So then we broke it down of like, okay, for having a more productive day and being able to work, like, okay, I'm going to go to sleep every night at this time. I'm going to wake up at this time. We made it really measurable and actionable. And then we just held each other accountable for a couple months. And forcing yourself to do something every single day when you have not done it is one of the hardest things in the world, but it's one of the best learning experiences, to just understand how you deal with that forced structure.
Yeah. I love that you put some pieces in place from the beginning to create success in this. You didn't do it alone, right? So you had accountability there.
Yeah.
And I also love how, so a lot of times, like I teach the laws of growth, right? And how there are certain pieces that when they're put in the right order, that there is inevitable success, right? And that always starts with some point of igniting, right? And whether that's internal or external, it will come either way. And oftentimes if we ignore the internal and wait long enough, it'll come from external, right? And so you identified and you're like, okay, life is not working. We are not happy, right? Yeah. And then, so you would recognize that, and then you're like, what are we going to do about it? You found somebody else to do this with you. And then you guys started going into like education mode. Okay. Like I'm going to start researching everything that we think would work in all of these different areas. And then let's trial them all and see what actually works. Totally. And then let's implement them. Like you guys totally followed each step. And then after you've implemented them, you're getting into like the prospering mode of, okay, we know there's actual habit now forming.
Yeah. And, you know, I want to talk about that a little more too. So like we sat out and like wrote out those different categories. And like, I'm telling you, I tracked like up to 18 habits a day. Really, that was all an experience process. I dumped so many of the things that I tested because they weren't contributing to my life, or they were, I pretty much built that within me, but I'm not doing it to this day. I did it for 2 months, 8 months, 2 days, and it served me really well for that period of time, but I'm not doing it now anymore. Like, it's just, I found what really worked, and that brings me the most joy and sets me on my mission. And I do that. And it's not that much every day now,
And
but
I love that you're separating that, because what we talk about inside of the coaching world, and you'll know this, is like what got you here won't get you there. And sometimes you needed that piece to get you to the next spot, but then you didn't need it anymore because now you knew better. And so you could do differently and do better and create a new piece there, right? But you needed to go through that process to get the information to then make the next jump.
yeah. Yeah. And, you know, one of the biggest learning like experiences that I had going through that process. So, okay, let's say you're 2 weeks into testing something new, like having a morning routine or whatever. Okay. And you have life really get in the way and you skip your routine for like 2 days. You broke your consistency streak, right? So those days were the most important days, not the ones like, let's say you already missed it. Now it's the day after. Okay. When you lose momentum, my gut instinct is like, all right, I mean, screw it. Like, I'm over this. It broke the trust that I had with myself of staying consistent, right? But when I would force myself to be like, all right, I really don't feel like doing this, let me do it anyways, those days changed my life, because what you're doing there is you're showing your body and yourself that your emotions won't dictate you sticking to something that you know will be good for you. And it's a really delicate balance, right? Because do you listen to yourself and your intuition, or do you listen to what you know is right and more like cognitively what you set as a goal for yourself? You need to balance that out for yourself. But in this case, I absolutely think like breaking those more easy emotional, like instant gratification or just easier paths was so worth it, because it showed me like I set the rules of where I want to go, and like I'm not going to let anything get in my way. I made a pact with myself. Like I was so serious about at least trying these things and staying consistent for a couple of weeks. I literally told myself a giant saw could come flying out of the air and cut my arm off today. I will still do my habits and stay to that level of consistency. And on the flip side, I could win the lottery tomorrow and win $50 million, $100 million. I would still do my habit, because these are the beginning stages where like I had to show myself no matter what happened, I would stick with this. It's not to say you're going to do it forever. It's really the process of just showing yourself you can do something and stay consistent with it, regardless of the benefit you see, because you don't know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love this. So juicy. Okay. So a couple things that you said there that I think are so important, because everything that you're talking about is you're talking about the habits we create for life, right? So how they impact us emotionally, how they impact our relationships, how they impact our businesses, how they impact our physical fitness, how they, like, all of these different areas, right? And you guys have, how many different journals do you have? 8?
If you're counting like the volumes, because we made add-ons, like 13.
Okay. So you guys have created so many of these different journals to be able to assist people in these different areas. And I think that, you know, listening to what you're saying here, I love how when you set yourself up for doing the trial period, number one, you recognized it as a trial period. And so it was okay if you failed, because that meant that it was part of the trial, right? Like it wasn't like, well, I give up and I'm walking away because I failed one day. Like, no, I'm setting it up inside of those parameters. But I love as well that the mindset that you put into it, because you set yourself up in a way where, like, for example, when you said, hey, if a saw came flying out of the air and cut my arm off, I would still do this. If I won the lottery, I would still do this. And I love that, because you attached a meaning and a belief to the habit, right? And so
purpose, deeper purpose.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, like, don't you find that that's what so many people are missing, and why they can't complete whatever the goal is because they just make a goal, but they don't have all of the deeper meaning and the understanding, and the, if this happens, I will still, if this happens, I will still, like, you're already saying, okay, how could I fail? If I fail in this way, this way, this way, this way, or this gets thrown at me, or this gets thrown at me, I will still do this. You're letting your brain know in advance, I don't have to make the decision when, this interruption comes or that interruption comes. I've already made the choice of what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And another thing that really stuck out to me during that time is realizing going from your off days back onto your on days. Like, let's say you missed a couple days, whatever, it's done already. Like, that opportunity is so important to show yourself that you're able to go from these lost momentum days back on track to staying consistent. And like, what that did for me over time is, now if I want to kick back into any of the old like habits or routines that I was doing 2 years ago, 4 years ago, I'm able to do it because I practiced going from no momentum, where like I totally ditched something for a couple days or week, a month, and restarted it. Like, that in and of itself is a skill. Like, learning how to go from, dude, I've been a lazy guy for like, so long, back to, okay, let me retaste what it's like being really strict and disciplined and having all this structure, is a really hard thing to do. But I feel like over the next 50, 60 years, I'm so flexible now. I can go from this place to this place to this place to this place, of different routines and discipline. Whereas before it was really tough for me.
So it sounds to me kind of like the way that you trained your body to respond to a workout, you trained your mind also in the process of how to respond to the start and stop, so that no matter what comes in life, if you need to take a break, or you choose to take a break in one area or another for whatever reason, because of, whatever choices, right? You're just saying, hey, this is what I'm doing. You know what you're capable of, and you've trained yourself to be able to jump back in at any moment. And it has created this flexibility.
Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I love that. Okay, so let's answer question number 2. So tell us a little bit about where you're at physically, fitness wise now, compared to where you were when you were the 200 plus pounds and like body fat scenario and stuff.
Is this like a take my shirt off scenario?
No, you don't have to do that.
Okay, it's really interesting you ask me this right now, because I have been deeply struggling with the balance of how much I love food. I can't explain to you. Like, I'll eat a burrito and get chills down my, like, it's weird. I don't know how it brings me this much joy. All my friends make fun of me, but it genuinely, it's one of the things I look forward to every day, is what I'm going to eat. And second, I really want to be like lean, strong, powerful, fit, right? And I don't know which one brings me more happiness. It's actually hilarious to me. Like, this quarantine was interesting because I bought a bunch of food with my roommate and I ate so much of it. Like, I'd eat it myself into food coma, and I'd be like, okay, and I'd go outside and I would run like 6 or 7 miles, because I love like the fitness aspect too. I love the mental challenges of like working out. So it's been a really funny balance, especially during quarantine. I mean, to answer your question, I work out a lot, and it changed. Like 10 years ago, I worked out completely for calorie sake and for losing weight. Now, oh my God, I'm so proud of myself. I hope you don't mind me being proud of myself for this, but I think what has given me so much joy is I would step on a scale, and the number that I would see would literally dictate how I would feel for the rest of the day. Like, my confidence was almost totally sourced from my weight. This is going through high school. This is through college. Whereas now, like, I've been able to put on 10 pounds, 15 pounds, and be just as confident as I was when I was really lean. Like, that's awesome. I'm so damn proud of myself for that. And I remember myself 10 years ago being like, damn, what happens if I'm in my 50s, I have kids, and I want to eat more food and I'll be overweight. I'm like, damn, I'll just be really unhappy and insecure. Whereas now, like, I know even if I gain some weight, it does not shape my confidence or character. And I know I'm tangenting a little, but I really want to talk about that because it's such a consistent thing of like body weight being such an important self-image catalyst. And what made that difference for me is the realization that I want to be around people who will unconditionally love me for who I am. And if anybody is judging me, especially for something like my weight, they are doing something wrong. That's a really, really powerful statement that takes a lot of processing to understand. And even if you get it logically, to emotionally be able to feel that and have that be your backbone is another world. But I realized I had people who would like conditionally love me or would show me judgment, or I couldn't be completely myself with. And after tasting that for so long, for years, I made a decision, and it was just so clear to me that like, sure, there's going to be people in this world who will never love me, who will dislike me. I'm totally fine with that. But I want to be around the people who will love me no matter what. In fact, I want to mess up on purpose and just to see who will have my back and support me even through mistake. Like that's literally my mentality now. And that has completely changed my confidence, shape, and character, right? Because at the end of the day, we're talking about physical body. And to answer your question, I work out a lot. I've ran like 25 miles this week, doing push-ups, pull-ups. I'm deadlifting a lot of weight. Like I've gotten strong and powerful, and I do it because I like the mental challenge of seeing what I can push my body to do. But that self-image change is probably, I think, what deserves the most focus.
Absolutely.
What brought me the most joy in my life from that aspect.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you brought that piece into it, because that's truly what we focus on inside of Flip the Switch is the mental struggle and the mental challenge to get from point A to point B. There are so many resources out there for the logistical side, but to be able to understand the mental capacity to be able to do it is what like I can geek out on for hours. So tell us a little bit about being an entrepreneur, starting the business, and the mindset shifts that had to happen for you inside of that space and creating this business to the point of success that it's at this point.
Tell me more as to what would be valuable for you in terms of an answer here. Is it how I've changed as a person to operate effectively, or like?
Okay, so for example, you told us about some of the habits that you created in order to get to yourself to this level that you've gotten yourself at physically, right? And some of the mental shifts that you had to make to do that. So what mental shifts and habits did you have to create to get yourself to the career level that you're at?
They all built into it, obviously. So I'm trying to understand better. Is it the habits that led me to be more productive on a day-to-day basis, or what sparked me to be an entrepreneur and create the business in the first place?
Well, I think that those go hand in hand, because one probably sparked your interest to be the entrepreneur and do it, and then the other one made that happen, right? So why don't you first tell us what sparked the interest? Because I'm guessing it had to do with that idea that you had when you were a kid about wanting to like be an influencer in the world and make a difference. But tell us a little bit about that story, and then tell us about the habits that made it happen.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I got really lucky with this. Just in my genes and blood, purebred entrepreneur. Like I would play Neopets when I was 7 years old. And like, I found ways to like break the system. My cousins and I would buy these maps for like 5,000 Neo points and resell them for like 50,000 Neo points. I would play like World of Warcraft in high school, and I spent half the game just trading on the auction house and the economy to like make like gold in the game. And like, I never realized this, but like, it's just what brought me the most fun. It was like, this is so in me, you know? So I knew when I graduated college, and even in college, I'm like, I would rather attempt to start 10 businesses and fail every single one and become homeless than go and work for somebody else or get a job. But that's me. Like most people do not have that wiring, right? It's just what I felt. I literally, I've envisioned myself going homeless so many times so that I'm able to dream and be really aggressive with business and everything, and not have a fear of like, what happens, what if. Seriously, I've picture, I know the corner I will go on to start getting money if I become homeless, if I lost every single resource. And that leads me to having no underlying fear of like chasing what will bring me the most joy. Now, so I knew I wanted to start something, right? And I created a couple businesses. I created one in college, multiple in college. But this one captured my heart. And the only reason I was able to get here is because I started this whole path of like improving my own life habits. And that 10 ideas habit was just awesome. I would brainstorm 10 things to improve the world in any way. And it came from a book called Choose Yourself by James Altucher. And I just kept doing that over and over and over and over. And the goal is to become an idea machine. And that just led me to just thinking of random business ideas, random things I wanted to do, because that was the natural outlet, that my creativity would go to. And over time, this one really stuck out to me of like finding a way to help people improve their life habits and creating a system for that, for people to take action on it. So that's really, I always knew I was going to be an entrepreneur. There was no habit I cultivated to help me do that. It was in my blood. But then how to actually operate and be productive every day, like for me, it was understanding where my time was being wasted every day and catching that. Because I have the hunger in me, but it's so easy for me to get distracted and like chase things that I have to really structure myself. So for me, my biggest one, and still is, video games. I love it. It brings me so much joy, but I had to set guidelines for myself, for my situation, to push me in the right way. So I said, okay, I'm going to play for 1 hour every single day, max. That means I had to stop playing online games because you can't pause an online game with other people. I'd go back to single player games. I set a strict timer for myself, and like just understanding those kinds of structuring things that need to be done helped me get in front of a computer and work. Once I'm there, I'm really effective. Another thing I spent a lot of time on is understanding how to be the most effective or efficient when I'm working. So I spent a day just learning all the keyboard shortcuts, like every tool or software we use. I spend that 30 to 60 minutes reading all the documentation so I know everything. So I can be really efficient when I actually use those tools. I'm like a ninja. If you see me work, I'm like, it's crazy. I get a lot done. My bigger problem is how do I get myself in front of a computer and being productive for as long as possible every single day.
Okay. I love this on several different levels. So it was so funny before when you were talking about your dual personality between how much you love between the food and the working out. I was picturing like this Jekyll and Hyde type thing, right? Where it's like, I want this, and just kind of that. Anyways, so that's just kind of a side note. I had to jump in and mention that. When you were talking about how you take the time before, like when you have a new software that you're going to use at work, and you actually take like an entire day to learn all the shortcuts or all the pieces, or you read the entire instructions or the manual or whatever, so that you can be most productive there. Like, who does that? Like, right? That's why you're being successful. That's why you're being successful though, is that, see, so one of the things that I talk about inside of the success, like the laws of growth, is we all jump naturally to the doing phase and we skip the first two phases, right? Where it's especially the experimental phase and the educating phase. We skip those two phases, right? And so what happens is once we hit a wall where something's not working, then we have to go back and educate ourselves, and then we have to experiment, and that, do you know what I mean? So if that's what makes it so productive, is you are continuing this pattern of using the right pieces in the right place. And so you never have to go crap, where's the manual? How does this thing work? When literally you're supposed to be like going live with something, a big launch or whatever, right? Like you've already got the other pieces in place because you use that pattern and that system. So I love that you do that because so many people don't do that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Leah, I'm a little hesitant of like pushing that idea super strongly as like one of the keys. I think it works really well for me because I love just learning things. Like I think I'm really ambitious of I want to be the best in the world at anything that I do. And it makes me be like, yeah, like, oh, I'll be the fastest, like, you know, like user of this, like whatever, the most effective like user of this. But that may not come naturally to a lot of people. And I think that's okay too. Um, I think a bigger step that has led to more advances there is making sure the ladder that you're climbing is on the right building, and choosing like what projects you're spending your time on too are the ones that will be the most fruitful for you, and really putting thought behind that, you know, versus like all the intricacies of the inner workings, I think has made a much bigger difference in terms of what we're able to build and get done.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you on that because that's like, you know, and I agree with you too, is I don't want people to get the idea that there's only one way to do something, right?
Yeah.
Because for example, like for me to take information in, I might do much better listening to a podcast or listening to an audiobook than actually sitting down and reading the book, right? So there's more ways than one to accomplish the thing. And yes, I completely agree with you in find the right one that works for you, right? But I love the idea that you said that there's, you know, like what building is your ladder against? What, like, there are certain pieces that you're like, okay, this piece, if this is in place, no matter like how I put it in place, but you know, all of those pieces. Okay. So tell me a little bit about the impact that creating the Habit Nest journals has had on your life at this point to now, like where you are right now, like what kind of an impact has it had in your life? And what kind of impact are you kind of planning for the future?
Yeah, I mean, really at our core, I see us as a learning and doing company. We help people learn new things and implement it into their lives. You know, we started with these kind of departments that fall more in like the self-help realm, but really I envision us growing as an outlet of all this incredible information out there in the world, of simplifying that to like guide people step by step in the most effective, simple way of building any new skill or habit. I think we're going to be seeing a lot more partnerships and collaborations with some of the best content creators in the world, hopefully over the next few years. I think we're going to see other formats of learning, not just paper journals, because I personally, I love tech. So that's a direction we're going in as well. Just expanding that vision out. Yeah. But also to answer your question, how has it impacted my own life? Awesome. I mean, I knew one of the benefits I would gain from starting this company is like, even if it completely failed, I would gain so much knowledge just trying to learn new things every single day, from, especially in this world of how do you live the best life possible? Like that to me is, I think, one of my biggest purposes in the world is taking advantage of this gift of life and reaching my potential. So sure, I get to start a company where all I do is like learn about human potential and learn about, you know, how to like implement that. Okay. It's taught me so much. I was just reading a book. You know, it pushes you in that direction every day. I feel really lucky to have that be my environment.
I love that. Okay, awesome. So here's a question. What is one thing that do you think that if you implemented right now would take you to the next level? So you've come from all these different places. You've implemented all of these different habits, these mindset shifts to be able to get to where you are. What's one thing that you're knowing that if you changed now would help take you to the next level?
I think it's really having the stamina for working more and more hours. I simply, if I'm able to work 12 hours a day, 5 or 6 days a week, I'll be on top of the moon. Right now, I'm probably like 2/3 of the way there. And that's not including like creative time or like, like have like reading and stuff like that. But it takes a lot to be able to do that. So I'm experimenting and tasting what it takes to get to that level. Not to say everyone needs to do that at all, but I know if I tell you 20 minutes ago, Leia, I want to be one of the biggest influential forces in the planet, I better be backing that up. And I definitely have learning to do to get there.
Okay, cool. That's exciting. So let's do a little bit of rapid fire questions, and then why don't you go ahead and...
I'm sorry, I just thought of something else to add on to that, which is right now it's just us three co-founders, Lindsay and Danielle, and a couple other freelancers that we work with. I think it's understanding how to hire the right people and setting that infrastructure in place so that people can like build departments out and grow. We're doing, I think, a little too much on our plates right now. So figuring out how to outsource especially with how easy it is to work with people now online remotely, is something I need to get a lot better at, and how to hire people, train people, and let them fly.
Mm-hmm. It was interesting. I was talking to or listening to a podcast the other day from Fantastic Entrepreneur, and she was talking about how a lot of times we live in a world where we think like, oh, I have 24 hours in the day. The richest person in the world has 24 hours in the day. The poorest person in the world has 24 hours a day. And and we just try and figure out what we can accommodate into our day, right? Yeah. And she was talking about how so often we don't consider the fact that those people who are the most successful don't have 24 hours in a day. They have like 400 hours in a day because they're leveraging out their time. They have so much leverage happening with the connections that they've made with other people, that it's not just them and their small team doing the thing. It's, all of these different people doing the thing. And so I love how, having that mindset shift takes you from the spot of, oh, I only have this many hours to work, to, hey, what if me and, the other co-founders and these people and these people, and like you were just talking about, like the other connections that you want to be making in the near future, like to really take this to the world.
Yeah, totally.
Awesome. Okay. So some rapid fire questions.
Okay, hit me.
Okay. So favorite superhero?
Probably Batman.
Okay. Oh, okay. You're going to love this. My son has a t-shirt. It says, be who you are. Oh, or 1 second. God dang it. What does it say? It says, oh, always be who you are. Unless you can be Batman, then always be Batman. Okay. Favorite breakfast cereal?
Reese's Puffs.
Really?
It's my guilty pleasure. Yeah, I never had peanut butter growing up. My mom would always buy almond butter, like unsalted raw almond butter. So when I had it, it stuck so hard. Awesome. Cinnamon Toast Crunch is up there. Lucky Charms is up there, and Kix.
All right. Okay. What would your best friend say that your best quality is?
I'm able to listen to people unconditionally without judging them.
I love it.
If I feel really differently, I'll tell them, but I'll listen.
I love it. I love it. Okay. Now, what would your best friend say your worst habit is?
Probably playing too many games. I'll go with that.
All right. And then just name one thing that you have on your bucket list.
Oh. Well, I feel like I'm not taking advantage of the fact that with a laptop, we can work from anywhere. So I would love to start traveling and like working from different cities around the world for like a couple weeks at a time. That just sounds so awesome. That and going to really cool places that are freezing and going into like ice water and like practicing keeping mental composure during that. Like I love just human challenges of seeing how far I can push my body. So I really wanted to do that.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. Is there anything that you wanted to leave our listeners with for a little bit of advice, and then tell us where they can find you and these awesome journals?
Yes. So my advice would be spend the time to build the infrastructure of your world when it comes to discipline, to doing things on a daily basis that will build you as a person. If you're able to build that mentality of, I'm going to create a castle of every habit that will support me throughout my life, life becomes easy because things will naturally flow into you. And you have the stability and the structure and formation in your life that will help you lead, that will lead you to living your best possible life in this world. Taking that step back to do that is one of the most rewarding things that I've ever done. And I would not be here talking to you today if I didn't do that. And then where can people find us? Habitnest.com, HABITNEST. We're also on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, all that good stuff.
And they can get your books on Amazon and also in stores. Ours came from the store in the mall, GNC. That's where we got ours. So
that is literally the only retail store that we're in right now, and only in Canada, I believe.
Okay, so Amazon or GNC in Canada.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much for being on the show today. I will drop your links into the description for the show as well. And again, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Leah, thank you. Great questions. I loved it. So cool talking to you.
Oh, you guys are rock stars for staying with me to the end, and wasn't that so fun? Also, you guys can check the show notes to find the link so that you can get your very own Habit Nest journal. They have got journals that are the Sidekick Morning Journal, the Nutrition Journal, the Gratitude Sidekick, the body shaping, booty shaping, resistance one that I did, or the weightlifting journal, and more. So you guys go there, check it out, and I will put a link in the show notes or description area where you guys can go to get your very own and get started on that. Absolutely loved having that interview with Mikey. Okay, so as promised, I have a special announcement for you guys. So I have put together a mini class on 4 secrets to actionable success, and it's yours for free. So all you need to do is just go to www.masterofme.ca/secrets. That's masterofme.ca/secrets to get your free copy of the 4 secrets to actionable success right now. Thanks so much, guys. See you soon. Same time, same place. I want to sincerely thank you and appreciate you today for showing up here on Flip the Switch. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a training session in your mindset mastery, leveling up your business success. And be a good friend. Share this episode with a fellow business builder. I'll see you next week. Same time, same place.